Hi everyone. Today we are discussing about chromatography. The word chromatography has two parts. One is the chrome, it means color, and the second part is graphy, it means a representation in paper. So we can see the definition of chromatography. So chromatography is a separation technique based on the different interactions of compounds with two phases, a mobile phase and a stationary phase, as the compound travel through a supporting medium. So chromatography having mainly three components. What are the components? Mobile phase, a stationary phase and a supporting medium. So here, because of chromatography, what we are aiming? We are aiming to separate a compound, a chemical compound from a mixture. So for the separation, we need three components in a setup. That we told, the mobile phase, stationary phase and the supporting medium. In the components of this chromatography, you see the first component is mobile phase. What's the mobile phase? It's actually, mobile means moving. A moving means it's a solvent or a gas. So we need a solvent or a liquid or a gas in this setup. And the second one is stationary phase. The word stationary means it's not moving. So we need a solid support for conducting this experiment. And the third one is a supporting medium. As you can see here, a solid surface on which the stationary phase is bound or coated. So the stationary phase is a solid or liquid that can be supported over another solid, that is called the supporting medium. Coming to the next slide, you see the history of chromatography. And the history started from the works of a Russian scientist, Mikhail Tsist, and in 1903. He did many experiments in separating chemicals or the biological ingredients from mixtures, just like chlorophyll, carotenes and xanthophylls, etc. So he is a introducer of chromatography. From that onwards, the followers developed the chromatography in a well-developed analytical technique. And coming to the next slide here, you can see what we are aiming and what we are doing in chromatography. You see here, in chromatography, we are always taking a mixture. That mixture contains many chemicals or biological compounds. So that biological compound or the mixture, we are separating this the components of the mixture individually, and then what we are doing after getting these components, what we will do? We will analyze, identify and purify, then finally quantify the compound. So I can give a clear picture about this concept. You see here, it's a 100-meter race from Olympics. See, all the participants are standing in the same line. So before starting the race, they are in the same position. So when after completion of the race, what is the result? You see, one person got the first prize and another got the second prize and another got the third prize. So they have the position has been distributed among them. The same principle is applying in the case of chromatography. So we are coming to the basic principle of chromatography. You see, the chromatography is working with the basis of differential distribution of sample components in between two phases, and the phase is called stationary phase and the mobile phase. So what is meant by differential distribution? Differential distribution means the components are distributed in between the two phases, in different time. That distribution is mainly depends on the adsorption of that compound on the surface of the stationary phase, because the mobile phase is carrying the compound and the stationary phase absorbing that compound in its surface. So some compounds will adsorb early and some compounds will adsorb later. That's why it is called differential distribution. And second point, coming to the mobile phase, tends to carry the component along the column or film of the stationary phase, while the stationary phase tends to retard their movement. So here what is happening really, the mixture is carrying by the moving phase over the stationary phase. and this, while moving these components, the stationary phase will try to retard its movement. It will hold the components in the mixture. Why the stationary phase trying to hold the components? Because all the components are having same chemical structure, chemical behavior, means functional groups. So, the stationary phase will try to absorb or interact with the chemical the mixture, the components in the mixture, and some compounds will make a type of bond, just like hydrogen bond or van der Waals force, something like that. Some components will make strong bonds with the stationary phase, some other compounds will not make that much strong bond with the stationary phase. If the molecule is making good bond with the stationary phase, that will move slowly. If the molecule having, there is no interaction with the stationary phase, that will move fastly. So, we are coming to the third point, the stronger the interaction of the component with the stationary phase, the more retarded its movement. Just I told that if a molecule having much stronger interaction with the surface or the stationary phase, it cannot move fastly. So, its movement retarded. So, it will go very slowly. If the interaction is very less, it can move freely along with the moving phase or the mobile phase. And coming to the fourth point, this resulted differential migration of the component. So, this retardation or this interaction will make a differential migration. So, some molecule will go fast, some molecule will go slowly. Initially, all the components are in the same place, but while moving the mobile phase and the interaction with the stationary phase, its velocity will vary. And now coming to the fifth point, the component having weakest interaction with the stationary phase comes out first. So, what is the result? These are the net result of the chromatography. Which component having less interaction with the stationary phase, that component will come first, and which component having high interaction with the stationary phase, that will come last. So, this is the final result of the chromatography. And after finishing our experiment, what the scientist will do next? So, they will analyze the compound. So, chromatography is used by scientists to analyze, examine a mixture, its components and their relations to one another. So, the scientists will do with chromatography, they can analyze the compound, analyze the components, and not only analyze the components, they can identify which compound it is, which component it is. So, even they need it's for a specific use, they can purify it. So, they can separate components in order to isolate one of interest for further study. And also, if they need more quantity, more amount, what they want to do, they can quantify. They can quantify the material, the component. So, determine the amount of the mixture and the components present in the sample. So, these are the 4 important steps. So, 4 important requirements the scientists want to do with chromatography. And then chromatography can be classified into 2 categories. One is the column chromatography and second one is the plane chromatography. You can see here column chromatography and plane chromatography. So, column chromatography, the name itself indicates that a column is there, a column, we are using a column, but here plane chromatography, that is a plane stationary phase we are using, but here a column. You can see from the picture, you see it is a column and some materials are packed in this column, and here nothing but paper chromatography and thin layer chromatography. So, in paper chromatography you can see a paper, and thin layer chromatography some paper like material, but it is a layer of material. So, coming to the column chromatography, you see it is liquid solid adsorption chromatography. Every chromatography is working with the principle that adsorption. So, here in column chromatography you can see what are the components. You see it is a column. a glass column, and you can see some filled material, that is a stationary phase, and some solvents inside, that is a moving phase. And here is a glass wool for controlling the flow of liquid as well as to prevent the flow of solid phase through the tap, and there is a plug, that is a tap. So, what is really column chromatography? You can see is a technique in which the substance to be separated are introduced onto the top of a column, packed with an adsorbent, passed through the column at different rates that depends on the affinity of each substances for the adsorbent and the solvent or the solvent mixture. So, here we have the column, a glass column, and it is packed with some stationary phase, and we are using the compound in the top of the stationary phase, and also for the mobility of the component we are using some solvents. Due to the interaction of the components with the stationary phase, the downward movement will control by the interaction. On that way we can separate the compounds. The basic principle of column chromatography is, you can see here, selective adsorption. So, these components in the column can be selectively adsorbed on the surface of the stationary phase. That stationary phase may be a silica gel or alumina or cellulose, like that. So, because of this selective adsorption, the movement or the downward movement of the component will retard, and the solid, the stationary phase will hold the component for some times, but the movement will continue. It may be slow or fast. Now, I am coming to a video that will better explain the mechanism of column chromatography. So, how column chromatography will elute the components, or it will separate the components, that can be explained by this coming video.
Hey everyone, quick biochemistry basics here. Let's talk about column chromatography. Column chromatography is a chromatography technique in which separation is carried out in column. The column is filled with a stationary phase, which can either be silica, alumina, or cellulose. The bottom of the column is packed with cotton or glass wool to support the stationary phase. The column preparation is usually carried out by two methods. Number 1, wet method, and number 2, dry method. In wet method, the stationary phase is mixed with a mobile phase to make a slurry and then packed in the column. In dry method, the powder of stationary phase is directly added to the column. Once the powdered stationary phase is packed, the mobile phase is flushed in the column to make it wet. Now, any of the method can be used for column preparation. However, care must be taken to avoid any bubbles in the column while packing the stationary phase. Let's see the working of column chromatography. The sample is loaded with the mobile phase on the top of the column. Once the sample is loaded, the mobile phase is continuously passed to cause separation. The mobile phase moves down the column because of gravity. Separation of molecules occur due to their differences in interaction with the mobile phase and the stationary phase. For example, the green molecules interact more with the mobile phase and moves fast down the column, while the dark blue and the violet molecules interact more with the stationary phase and hence move slowly. To increase the flow rate of the mobile phase, a pump or pressurized gas like argon or nitrogen can be used. Once the separation is completed, the samples are usually collected as fractions. The mobile phase leaving the column is known as eluate, while the sample molecules leaving the column is called eluide. Now, depending on the type of stationary phase used, there can be several types of column chromatography. If the stationary phase is adsorbent material like alumina or silica, then it is known as adsorption chromatography. If the stationary phase is ion exchange resin, then it is known as ion exchange chromatography. If the stationary phase is attached with a ligand that binds a specific molecule such as protein or enzyme, then it is known as affinity chromatography. And if the stationary phase is a porous gel or bead, then it is known as gel permeation chromatography.
Finally, coming to the application of column chromatography. You see, column chromatography have a wide range of application in not only in laboratory, in industry also. Everywhere, the first instance, if we need to identify a compound, we depend the column chromatography in a laboratory. So, especially column chromatography is the first application. You can see here, column chromatography is used to isolate an active ingredient. You see, it is our normal turmeric. So, turmeric is used as an antimicrobial agent. Why it is used as an antimicrobial agent? You know that in turmeric we have an ingredient called curcumin. How the curcumin isolated? How the curcumin identified? So, it is actually in turmeric plenty of chemical compounds are there, but the curcumin is the active compound against germs. So, this has been isolated by the process called column chromatography. And second one, it is very useful in separating compound mixtures. So, in many chemical reactions we are not getting the pure compound, we are getting always a mixture. To identify a particular compound, what product has formed, we need to isolate, we need to separate that compound from the mixture. So, there the column chromatography will help you. You see here, I have many colored candy. So, this is just a representation that a mixture having many type of compounds. Each color means one compound, the second color is another compound, like that. And the third application, it is used to determine the drug estimation from drug formulation. So, in drug industry or the pharmaceutical industry, people are trying to make many drugs for many diseases, and how much drug is formed, what is the quality of the drug, that can be explained, that can be obtained by the column chromatography. You see here, every drug in industry has been produced by an initial procedures that can be followed through column chromatography. And the fourth one, it is used to remove impurities. So, column chromatography is not only using for separating our required ingredients, but also to remove the unwanted materials in the mixture. Unwanted material means the impurity that can be separately isolated from the mixture. Then finally we will get the pure compound. And the fourth one, used to isolation metabolics from biological fluids. So, it is column chromatography has a wide application, a heavy application in biological field, because for separating proteins and some serum just like that, everything has been doing using column chromatography. Now, coming to the second part, planar chromatography. It can be divided into paper chromatography and thin layer chromatography. See, paper chromatography, the name itself means the technique. A paper is using in this process. You know, a paper is a porous material, a microscopically porous material, and this paper is inserted or mounted on a block, a wooden block, and is hanged into the beaker, and beaker having some solution or some solvent. And we have paper chromatography is normally using to identify a particular compound or the required compound in laboratory instantaneously. So, if we need urgently or instantaneously a compound, we do not want much more setup just like column, silica gel, solvent like that. We do not want such that much requirements. Here simply a paper is needed. So, you can see here a mixture of compounds, and after this process the components has been separated. So, what is the principle behind paper chromatography? This is a capillary action. Capillary action of the paper. The movement of liquid within the subspaces of a porous material due to the forces of adhesion, cohesion and surface tension. The liquid is able to move up the filter paper because its attraction to itself is stronger than the force of gravity. You can see that if you will dip a paper strip in a solvent, automatically that solvent will absorb into the paper and will move upward. Why the solvent moving upward? Because that movement, this attraction between the solvent and the paper is stronger than the force of gravity. That's why it is moving upward. If we are keeping some impurity or some compound in the starting point of the paper, along with the solvent, that molecule or the component also will move. So, doing this experiment, we need good solubility of the solute in the solvent. So, the solutes dissolve into solvents and have similar properties. So, what is the basic principle of dissolution? Like dissolves like. That is the basic principle of dissolution. Like dissolves like. And the solvent and the solute having similar property. Then only you will get the better solubility. And separation of compounds depends on both their solubility in the mobile phase and their differential affinity to the mobile phase and the stationary phase. So, here I can see how a paper chromatographic experiment has been conducted. You see what are the components, what are the materials we need to do this experiment. So, is a beaker or a jar, a lid, distilled water, here isopropanol I am taking the solvent, and graduated cylinder and some strips of filter paper and the color strip that we want to separate, and some pen, pencil, ruler, scissors, tape, etc. So, for what I am doing, first of all I am making water and isopropanol in different ratio. So, here preparing 15 ml of a mixture of isopropanol in water. So, you can see here 0%, 5%, 10%, 20%, 50% and 100%. So, 0% means the 0% means 100% water, and coming to 5%, the amount of isopropanol is 5%, again in the mixer 10% isopropanol, again 20% isopropanol and 50% isopropanol, then coming to 100% isopropanol. So, the polarity is different in every mixture, especially water is highly polar and isopropanol also a protic solvent, that is why it is polar in nature. Now, we are taking the paper strip and we inserted some points here. We have 3 colors, you can see here we have 3 color pens. So, using this color pen, we have inserted 3 points just 1 centimeter above the paper strip. Next, we have inserted this paper strip in the beaker having the solvent. So, automatically this solvent will absorb by the paper strip and it will move upward. The same time, the color point also will move upward along with the solvent. See, here this experiment has been conducted using 50% isopropanol, and the time taken for completion of this experiment is 55 minutes. You see here initially at 0 minute it is just started the climbing, but after 4 minutes its distance increased. Now 9 minutes, 40 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you can see while on progressing the time, the distance travelled by the color is increased. And finally, after 55 minutes, all the colors reached on the top of the strip. So, this is a basic experimental setup or the procedure we are doing in paper chromatography. If the same experiment I am doing using 100% isopropanol, you see here within 30 minutes all the colors reached at the top of the paper strip. What is the meaning? Here I am using 50% isopropanol, The total time taken is 55 minutes, but here within 30 minutes it has reached. Means here it is more compatible. The property of this color or the chemical structure or the chemical nature of the color is more compatible with the solvent. That's why it is moving easily. But here the presence of some water is 50% water is there, so the property is not that much matching, or the polarity is not that much matching. So here only taking 30 minutes for reaching up to the top of the paper. Now, what are the applications of paper chromatography? I told you the paper chromatography is using in laboratory for getting an instant result from the analysis. So after completion of a reaction, whether the product is formed or not, we need to check. So that instant information can be obtained from the paper chromatography. You see here the first application, separation and identification of sample compounds present in trace quantities. Here we do not want much more quantity, only trace quantity is needed. And the separation of components which are closely related chemically. For some compounds are chemically, structurally not that much different. How to identify whether they are one compound or two compound? Using paper chromatography, we will get two spots. And in laboratory and industry for quick check of purity of organic chemicals. This is the first and instant application of chromatography. And for the control of the purity of food products and pharmaceuticals, detect drugs and dopes in animals and humans, analysis of cosmetics, resolution of isometric metal complexes, and determine the metals in ore samples. So, if you want to analyze or you want to detect the compounds in a trace amount, paper chromatography will help you. And coming to the thin layer chromatography, the name itself can explain what is this chromatography, thin layer. Just like paper chromatography, here we are not using the paper, but here also a stationary phase and moving phase. The stationary phase is an aluminum foil or a glass plate. So, an aluminum foil, you see here an aluminum foil or a glass plate, and this glass plate or aluminum foil is coated by the stationary phase called silica gel. Here also you can see the white part is silica gel. Here also silica gel. So, but in first case silica gel is coated on the aluminum plate, but the second case silica gel is coated on the glass plate. So, both can be used as the stationary phase in thin layer chromatography. So, thin layer chromatography is a technique used to isolate non-volatile mixtures. The experiment is conducted on a sheet of aluminum foil or glass which is coated with a thin layer of adsorbent material, that may be alumina, silica, cellulose, etc. And what is the basic principle? As said earlier, the differential distribution of or the partitioning of the components between the two immiscible phases brings about the difference in the rates of their migration. Just like paper chromatography, here also the components are moving along with the moving phase, and there is an adsorption between the component and the stationary phase. That's just like silica or alumina, just like that. If the component has very high interaction with the stationary phase, it cannot move fastly. If the interaction is very less, it can move very easily. So, what are the stationary phases? A uniform thin layer of adsorbent like silica gel, alumina or cellulose. And which is a mobile phase that we can use with respect to the property of the compound. So, maybe very highly polar ethyl acetate like solvent or less polar hexane like compound. Normally petroleum ether also using, it's also polar, petroleum ether also using as a better solvent. So, with respect to the polarity of our compound, we can use different solvents, polar or non-polar or medium polar, just like that. So, next slide we will explain the process of TLC. You see here this is a thin layer prepared from the glass or the aluminum plate, and it is inserted in a beaker having some solvent, and just above 1 centimeter you can see here one spot. That spot is a mixture of the compounds or some dye or something like that, and when putting this thin layer into the solvent, automatically solvent will absorb onto the stationary phase, and it will start move upward. While moving the solvent, automatically these compounds also will start moving upward. With respect to its interaction with the solvent, with the stationary phase, some components will move faster and some components will move slowly. By this way, we can separate the compounds. And what are the applications of chromatography? Just like paper chromatography, is a rapid separation, purification, identification of compounds which are present in very minute quantity. And this also using in laboratory along with the paper chromatography for instant result. And analysis of complex organic mixtures, and identification of drugs and plant extracts such as alkaloids from some natural products, and the separation and isolation of biochemical preparations, and finally detection of contaminants or adulterants in chemical samples in the laboratory as well as in industry. So, in food materials, we can analyze the contaminants or the adulterants present, which will be very easily analyzed by thin layer chromatography. These are the main applications of thin layer chromatography. Just I told about paper chromatography, the same applications, same points can be quoted here also. Both paper chromatography and thin layer chromatography can be used for the instant result in a laboratory. So, after conducting an experiment, if we need what the compound is formed, whether the compound is formed or not, we have to analyze the same using thin layer chromatography or paper chromatography. Both analysis need only trace amount of material, and this especially this in TLC can be used for the analysis of complex organic mixtures, and also the identification of drugs from the plant extracts, just like that, or the isolation of some compounds from biochemical preparations, and you can find the adulterants or the unwanted ingredients in food samples that will be harmful to our body. Now, I am coming to the interpretation of the data. How can we interpret the data obtained from TLC or paper chromatography or from the column chromatography? Here is a factor, here is a term is coming, RF factor, retardation factor. So, what is the retardation factor? You can see here there are two types of movement you can expect when doing this experiment. One, the solvent is moving, and second, the component is moving. The solvent is moving much faster than the component. So, from the beginning point, the solvent can get a distance, and also these components also can get a distance. This ratio, the distance travelled by the solvent and the distance travelled by the component, this ratio is called the RF value or the retardation value. The ratio of the distance travelled by the particular component to the distance travelled by the solvent front during the same time. So, in a particular time interval, how much the solvent travelled and how much the same time how much the component travelled. That ratio means the distance travelled by the component divided by the distance travelled by the solvent, that is called the RF value or the retardation factor. And this RF value depends on the solvent employed which solvent you are employed. Some solvents can climb very easily, some other solvents can climb very slowly. So, it depends on the solvent polarity and the interaction with the stationary phase, and also the quantity of the medium used for separation, how much quantity you have used, and also the temperature. The temperature, if the atmosphere having much higher temperature, the evaporation will be very high and the movement also very fast. And nature of the substance, what type of substance you are using, whether polar or non-polar. Maybe a polar compound can climb easily, or a non-polar material can't. So, an organic compound which is really readily soluble in organic mobile phase, the RF value will be close to unity. Suppose this distance, so this is the distance by the solvent and this is the distance by the solute. If the solute is moving along with the solvent and both will get the same distance from the origin, in such cases the RF value will become unity. If the compound having a slow rate of movement, the RF value always will be less than 1. Now, coming to the last portion in this section, gas chromatography. So, here gas has a major role while conducting this experiment. So, this chromatography is also called gas liquid chromatography. This is an instrument, an industrially important instrument, also used in many laboratories. Not a simple setup, it is a complicated instrument. You see, in the picture itself can tell the components of this gas chromatography, and that I will explain later. And the major components in gas liquid chromatography, a mobile phase is needed. That mobile phase may be, always will be a gas, and that gas may be nitrogen, argon, just like a carrier gas. That gas is also called carrier gas. And the stationary phase is a liquid immobilized on the surface of a inert solid. A liquid or a liquid molecule is immobilized on the surface of a solid support. That liquid will be non-volatile, high boiling, and that may be some examples for such solvents are methyl silicones or polyethylene glycol, or an inert porous solid like that Kieselguhr. And the separation is based on the differential partitioning of the components of the sample in a vapor phase between the mobile gas phase and the stationary liquid phase. So, here there is a stationary phase and the mobile phase is a gas. The sample will be converted to in gaseous phase, and this sample will move along with the gas, and the differential adsorption or the differential partitioning will be expected while moving the compound through over the stationary phase. That will separate the components from the mixture. And for moving the gas or the components, we need a stationary phase. That stationary phase will be a column. There are two types of column. One is capillary column and second one is packed column. Capillary column is much thinner and long, but packed column is much wider and less length. You see, packed column 1 to 10 meters long and 2 to 6 millimeter inner diameter, and capillary column 15 to 100 meters long and 0.1 to 0.53 millimeter inner radius. And here is a video that will explain how gas chromatography is working. After conducting gas chromatography experiment, we are getting this like a result. It is called GC graphical chart. What you can see from this GC graphical chart? You see there are 3 peaks in the graph having retardation time T1, T2 and T3. And it is named as here you see T2 is A and T1 is B and T3 is C. At a glance, what information you can get from this chart? You see the peak B is tall and peak A is shorter than B and peak C is much more shorter than B and A. Also, these 3 peaks as obtained in 3 different retardation time. B is in T1, A in T2 and C in T3. One more specialty I can observe from the chart. You see the peak B, there is less area inside the peak, and A also less area inside the peak, but peak C having very high area. This area having some indication. I will show you the informations from GC graphical chart. What are the informations we will obtain from a GC graphical chart? The number one, the number of peaks correlates with the number of components, and the area under the peak correlates the concentration of the components in the mixture. And the third one, the retention time. The retardation time is also an identifying identity of the compound. Suppose I can tell, suppose this compound A is suppose paracetamol. Suppose you think paracetamol. If you are using the same program in GC, if you are analyzing 2 separate compounds having the same compound paracetamol, you will get the peak for paracetamol always in T2. Whatever may be the mixture, if the component is same and the program in GC also same, you will get the same retardation time for that particular compound. That is why the retardation time also can identify the identity of the compound. That retardation time is really an identity of that compound. And then what are the applications of gas chromatography? So, separation of components in complex organic and biochemical systems. It is widely used, actually it is widely used in big laboratories and industries for finally separating their components from a mixture. It will take time because it need much more setup, just like hydrogen gas, nitrogen gas, then a heavy instrument. Maybe a GC nowadays priced 15 lakhs, but it is not possible to purchase in normal college laboratories, but only research center can get such a facility. Okay, coming to the applications of gas chromatography. The second one is providing an idea about the presence of or absence of the suspected compound in a mixture. We do not know, we are expecting one compound, but we do not know the compound is present in the mixture or not, but we can identify the presence of that particular compound by GC analysis. From paper chromatography or TLC column chromatography, we cannot get an idea about which compound it is, but GC can tell which compound it is. And also offer purity of the compound. Some chromatography can be used for purifying the mixture, and quantitative information of a compound, how much amount is there and which compound it is, which functional group is there. Just like that from the library we can get where it is very easily. Support other categorization techniques such as FTIR, NMR and mass spectroscopy like that. So, if we are getting some information about the compound from FTIR, NMR or mass spectra, that information will support by GC. So, I can tell in short, chromatographic experiments are fundamentals in every experimental chemistry. It is a preliminary analysis of chemistry research, and also in an advanced condition you can depend chromatography for identifying your expected molecule or your expected product. Thank you.